All right, here goes a real chapter. Chapter 12. Nice and deep. So the boys are now united. They're off on an adventure here. And it says the next night in Bordeaux, Rick, Alex, and I made moves. Further south, stepping out to the college district and leaping into a skinny dive bar with live drinks and cheap music. Had there not been a 3 for 2 beer happy hour advertised at the door, and had Rick not shot straight for the bar counter to order 6 for 4 beers, we might have noticed what kind of joint this was, and chosen another place on second thought. Through an air of rare hemp seed incense, we saw along the walls strung fairy lights in mason jars, framed mandalas, and many pinned impressionistic paintings of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Finger snaps caught our ears and brought our gaze to a stage where a smiling xylophone player accompanied an a cappella group's gargling, atonal yodels. By the time Alex and I agreed we should go somewhere else, Rick had placed 2 cold glasses in each of our hands. The condensation between our finger webs convinced us to at least finish the round, though leaving would be hard, seeing as how Rick had implicated us into playing the round game. They were homemade wheat beers, brewed at 10% alcohol, which meant washing them down would lead Alex to buy 6 beers, and then me to buy 6 more. All the while, other oddball bands cartwheeled on and off the stage. More a cappella groups, some duos, singer-songwriter types, even a young blues guitarist in a black business suit. The most recent musician, a soloist, began his set in prima donna fashion, moving his stool to the dim corner of the stage, letting out a few curses in French, tuning, untuning, tuning his guitar, asking for his vocal mic to be turned up, more reverb, announcing he was from another town, then asking for the mic to be turned back down. When he finally got to the music, he strummed the same 2 chords, one after the other, eventually exploding into a fit of fury. He cursed out the bartender, who just smiled, real Zen-like, as he wiped glasses clean, and said he'd be back next week to pick up his money. We sipped our homemade brews just the same and waited. During a lull, Alex brought up renewing our lease in the fall, but Rick and I shushed him and changed the subject to the headliners taking center stage. There appeared a 7-foot-tall man dressed in boar skins, and a very dissimilar lady, round and glazed like a warm pain au chocolat, wearing a knee-high, sleeveless noir et beige dress. The abnormally large 6-string she held up to her neck looked as if it were suffocating her, until she began dominating the instrument and turning its knobs with delicate precision. Once in tune, she introduced her partner, who only chuckled through crooked teeth and pulled out his fur pants, a real-life 10-string turtle-shell lyre. In a flash, the duo had the entire bar enamored of their covers of 90s American heartthrob ballads. The female vocalist irradiated her siren's lullaby with such fragility that anyone listening would have been convinced it wouldn't hurt to come closer to the stage. And we did. We scooted our table closer and closer to the point where it was moving by itself, and our only efforts lay in holding our heads up with our elbows to the table. Between tunes, she asked other patrons to move in closer, citing us out as proper examples. But we knew no one felt the way we did about her now. After the set, while folks in attendance snapped in the incense air, or offered 2-finger claps, the 3 of us cheered and neighed and kicked the floor, ordered more beers, and let the young lady know how good she sounded, attracting not only her playful side glance, but a bar full of beaming scowls. We threw the vibes back to them, and no one understood, not even the giant accompaniment, who only scratched his head as the songstress wonderwalled her way over to our table. We let her order her usual cocktail, and chatted. "You three must be Americans," she said, pulling out a raspberry from her champagne flute and chewing it with her front teeth. "I am studying your literature at Bordeaux Montaigne." "Does that mean mountain?" I asked. She shook her head. "Well, there were so many things I wanted to say, but I didn't know how." "Who are your favorite authors?" I asked. "Mick," Rick sneered, "don't bore the young lady with such idle chatter." Then, turning to the songstress, "Do you play any other instruments?" She smiled and gazed at Rick for what felt like a sore amount of time. "I play many instruments," she said, almost in a whisper. "I also play guitar," Alex said. Rick and I almost slapped him. Looking down as if counting the cashews on the floor, she smiled and concentrated. Her hair was cut like Joan of Arc. "How long have you played guitar?" she asked. Alex blushed, twisted his blonde chin whiskers, and replied, "Since high school. About 8 years." "That is very long," she said, going up down Alex's torso with her eyes. "For one instrument." Alex didn't reply. Couldn't. It was hard to make that sound. Rick exploded in his seat. "He used to play guitar in our band." The siren singer perked up. "You three played in a band? What was the name?" I elbowed Rick. Rick told her we didn't have a name. "Alex left us anyway," he said, "so it doesn't matter." Rick grabbed the limp and drunk Alex by the arm and shook his entire body. "Style diffs," Rick said. "We weren't a match." "I do not understand," she said. "Diffs?" Alex was sinking in his seat. Rick kept going. "He prefers to play sad emo music. Ain't that right, Alex, my boy? Mick and I, on the other hand, we are a duo now. Imagine the Black Keys members had a baby, and that baby was raised by Ali Farka Touré, shared a bedroom with the White Stripes, went to school with Jaco Pastorius, and prayed at the altar of Tenacious D. That is many references." "We're still finding our sound," I said. Rick snapped. "Alex, though." She hummed, turning to him. "Hmm?" Alex blushed. The dope. "His music is pretty tight," I said, flipping 2 near-empty glasses and placing them over my head like ears. "What is tight?" she asked, not taking her eyes off of Alex, who was about to say something. "I don't practice as much as I used to." Alex fingered the beer I had spilled on the table. "I prefer playing for pleasure, in my room. Do you know Bright Eyes?" "Oui," she said. "I love Oberst. He's charmant." "What's charmant?" I asked, staring at the group with the 2 glasses over my eyes, patterns in my mind now moving slowly. "If you love Oberst," Alex said, scooting closer to her, "then you should check out..." ... Dot, dot, dot. Oh my god. So much tension. So much love. So much music. But that's it. See you next time. Keep on following.